Ancient religious texts might seem irrelevant to modern life, but what if the earliest Christians actually created the world's first comprehensive guide to spotting social media influencer scams and managing toxic community members?
Hold on, are you saying there's actually a connection between ancient religious fraud and modern social media manipulation?
Well, this fascinating early Christian document lays out incredibly specific guidelines about identifying false prophets, like if someone claims divine inspiration but asks for money directly, they're fraudulent. But here's what's really interesting: if they request donations to help others in need, that was considered legitimate. Sound familiar to any GoFundMe campaigns you've seen?
That's actually mind-blowing. How detailed were these guidelines?
Oh, they were incredibly precise. They had a 3-day maximum stay rule for visiting teachers. After that, you were considered suspicious. And get this, they even had a term for people who tried to use religion as an excuse to avoid work. Christmongers. It's like they were dealing with ancient versions of social media grifters.
So they basically created an ancient version of community guidelines and content moderation?
Exactly. And what's fascinating is their sophisticated approach to community management. They had this brilliant system where they'd welcome everyone initially, but then carefully observe their behavior. They even required members in conflict to resolve their issues before participating in community gatherings. Imagine if Facebook implemented that rule.
That's quite different from our modern block and move on approach. What about their economic system?
They had this amazing concept called first fruits. Members would give the first portion of everything they produced to support leaders and the poor. But here's the clever part: they built in anti-abuse measures. Like, if a spiritual leader ordered food claiming divine inspiration but then ate it themselves, they were immediately labeled as false.
That's surprisingly practical for an ancient text. How did they maintain community trust while being so vigilant about fraud?
Well, they created this balanced system of respect and verification. They emphasized welcoming strangers, but also staying alert to potential manipulation. You know how we talk about trust but verify in cybersecurity? They were doing that with spiritual leaders 2,000 years ago.
These parallels to modern issues are fascinating. Did they address long-term community sustainability?
Oh yes, and this is where it gets really relevant. They predicted times when love shall be turned into hate and community bonds would be tested. Sound familiar in our era of social media echo chambers? But instead of just warning about it, they emphasize maintaining ethical behavior, especially during challenging times.
That's eerily relevant to our current social climate.
And here's what really strikes me: they understood human nature hasn't really changed. They knew people would try to exploit generosity, that power could corrupt, that communities could fracture. So they created practical systems to address these issues while still maintaining an open and caring community.
Looking at all this, it seems like we might have something to learn from these ancient community guidelines.
You know what's really powerful? They remind us that while technology changes, human nature and community dynamics remain surprisingly consistent. Maybe instead of reinventing the wheel with every new social platform, we should look back at these time-tested principles of community building and fraud prevention.
That's quite profound, the idea that ancient wisdom might help us navigate modern digital communities.
Well, as we wrap up, here's something to think about. If these ancient communities could create such sophisticated systems for maintaining healthy communities without any modern technology, imagine what we could do by combining their wisdom with our current tools. Maybe the key to building better online communities isn't just about new algorithms. It's about understanding these timeless principles of human interaction.